Hello and welcome to another episode of the Metal Movers podcast brought to you by Argus Media, a leading independent provider of energy and commodity pricing information. In this episode of Metal Movers, we'll be in conversation with Paul Vollant, CEO of Largo Physical Vanadium. We'll be discussing LPV's recent launch and its progress, as well as some wider trends in the vanadium market. My name is Sian Morris. I'm the Noble Alloys reporter for Argus Media here in London. Paul, welcome to the Metal Movers podcast.
Thanks, Ian.
Great. So, first of all, for those who might not be familiar, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and a bit about Largo Physical Vanadium?
Sure. My name is Paul Vollant. My main job is I'm VP of Commercial at Largo. Largo is the largest primary producer of vanadium in the world from its Maracás mentioned mine in Brazil. And we sell vanadium products on a global basis to the steel, aerospace, chemical, and energy storage industries. Largo is also vertically integrated with a battery division in the Boston area in the United States, where we develop and produce batteries for long duration storage application. We also recently launched Largo Physical Vanadium, which is supported by Largo initially, but it's a new publicly listed company. So we also allow other outside investors to join in LPV. And I was appointed as the CEO of this newly established company. LPV, in short, will purchase and hold physical vanadium to provide its shareholders with ownership of a key strategic mineral. Vanadium is essential to achieve a greener world and in key industries such as steel, aerospace, and energy storage.
Great. So you said the LPV launched quite recently. I think it launched in September. How have the first couple of months been? How's the company performing so far?
Yeah, so far we're seeing a great disconnect between our share price performance, which is down by 13%, and our NAV performance, which is up by 28% since inception. We attribute that to the fact that LPV is still fairly unknown as a vehicle. And after having deployed our capital at the end of 2022, it's now our main focus to market LPV to a larger audience and try to increase the liquidity in the stock.
Okay. LPV, it holds vanadium in its physical form as a metal, but as I understand it, it will also store vanadium in an electrolyte form for use in vanadium redox flow batteries. Could you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Sure. Yes. So LPV main function is to hold vanadium over long periods of time. So today, all of our vanadium is stored in commercial form in various leading warehousing facilities globally. In the medium run, and due to the unique properties of VRFB, being that vanadium does not degrade throughout the battery life, we also have the opportunity to store vanadium units in a battery. We believe that this will be a true game changer in the VRFB industry, as we will be able to significantly reduce the overall battery cost and thus increase the battery competitiveness and grow the vanadium demand.
Okay. So LPV in itself is not a battery company, but Largo been making a lot of progress in the battery space. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about vanadium redox flow batteries because, you know, they're a big topic of conversation in the vanadium market right now. Currently, it feels like most of the focus for the European battery supply chain has been on lithium-ion batteries. You know, they're a well-established technology. They're being used in electric vehicles, electronics, and for long-duration energy storage, just like vanadium redox flow batteries. How can VRFBs compete when there is so much focus on lithium-ion batteries?
It's a very good question, and I think there will be in the long run room for many different technologies. Lithium batteries have won the battle of energy density. So where energy density is a requirement for mobile application, for cars, anywhere where you really need a lot of energy in a small and light device, VRFB will never compete. What has changed recently is that renewable energy is now the cheapest way to produce energy. The main issue with renewable energy, as we all know, is the intermittence. And for that, we will need a battery technology that will be able to provide long duration and safe storage on a large scale. And we're very confident that VRFB will be one of the winning technology for these very applications.
I think so far, one of the biggest adopters of vanadium redox flow batteries has been China. In 2022, vanadium pentoxide demand from the VRFB industry in China was over 9,000 tons compared to, I think it was less than 4,000 tons in 2021. Why do you think VRFBs are finding such success in China when they've been slower to pick up in Europe and the US?
It's a very good question, and with Largo, we mainly focused on the US and Europe, and we've seen how fast and far China has gone on VRFB. In Q4 last year, China deployed or commissioned a new battery for 400 megawatt hour, which essentially with one system doubled the total installed capacity globally since the 1980s when VRFB was invented. So China is making huge strides. I think it's mainly due to a few fundamental situations in China. Number one, in China, vanadium is mainly produced as a byproduct to the steel industry. So usually very large company produce vanadium, and this very large company only derive a small portion of their revenues from vanadium. So they could maybe look at a lower profitability in the short run to grow a market and to really build stronger business. I think in the West, we focus to make VRFB commercially as attractive as the current traditional usage from the get-go, which is definitely something that is achievable and that we will achieve in Europe and in the US, but it's going to take a bit more time. So I think China has proven that they invested more in the technology, and they're taking a very long-term view. So, I think all the progresses that are done in China is going to help us at the end of the day. We're watching closely what they're doing over there, and we hope to learn from them. But it's true that they've been at the forefront of VRFB development.
Europe and the US need the same level of investment in VRFBs as China, then, essentially.
Yes, same level of investment, same level of public and governmental commitment in renewable long duration storage. So, yeah, it's a combination of factors. Also, the scale of the Chinese vanadium industry is much larger. China produces about 55% of the global vanadium. US and Europe produce only a small fraction of that. So the industry is just much more developed with bigger companies. And again, we're watching closely and trying to learn from what they're doing.
Looking a little bit more widely at the vanadium market, vanadium can be quite a volatile commodity in terms of price fluctuations. I think in 2018, we saw the price of vanadium pentoxide in Europe jump to around $29 per pound, and ferrovanadium rose well over $100 per kilo. Russia is the second largest producer of vanadium globally after China, as you said, and that could leave the supply chain quite vulnerable to sanctions. So just how secure is the vanadium supply chain, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think vanadium is not a rare element in the Earth crust, right? It's so there is plenty of vanadium around. The issue is that today the production is fairly concentrated. China, as I said, produces 50 to 60% of the total vanadium production globally, and Russia is the second largest producer with about 15 to 20% of global production. I would say that any geopolitical news, affecting a major producer or major consumer will have an impact on short-term vanadium price. However, I believe that we are a fairly resilient industry. We've been around for a very long time, and we can be very sure that there will be vanadium units to support the development of VRFB. At Largo, we are committed to focus on production. We are developing new innovative vehicles such as LPV to support also reduction in volatility in prices. And also, as I said before, LPV will support reducing the total cost of raw material for the VRFB industry. So we're progressing. It's a fairly small industry in the overall metals and minerals complex, but I think we will find ways to support these emerging technologies.
Great. The volatility for the cost of raw materials, in your opinion, isn't really a risk for the growing VRFB industry?
My main point, I think, is that price volatility is always a risk in the short term, but I don't see that as a risk in the long run.
And I think, as we've kind of discussed already, quite a small emerging area of the vanadium complex, the vanadium redox flow battery technology. So far, at the moment, about 90% of vanadium demand, I think, comes from the steel industry. Aerospace alloys make up about 4.5%. Chemical catalysts make up 3.5% of demand. Do you think vanadium redox flow batteries could ever become a price driver for vanadium when they're making up such a small portion of vanadium demand right now?
The VRFB is not driving vanadium prices, right? But I think what we need to ask ourselves is vanadium redox flow battery going to drive prices and demand in the long run? And I'm very confident if current industry projections are correct, VRFB will represent a much larger share of the demand in the medium long run. As per the latest Vanitech statistics, in Q3 2022, VRFB was already the second largest application for vanadium after steel. So VRFB consumed more vanadium units in Q3 2022 than aerospace or chemical and catalyst industries. So it's already the second largest demand driver, and we're seeing that growth is happening very fast. So I'm very confident if in the long run, vanadium redox flow battery start to drive 10, 20, 30% of total vanadium demand, there will be a very key factor of the vanadium pricing, no doubt.
In what kind of time frame do you think that 20 to 30% of demand could exist? In what sort of time frame?
So, I'm trying to be realistic, right? So I would give it a 5 to 10 year time frame, just to be on the very safe side. But if you look at industry publication and projection from other experts, I mean it could be much faster and much larger than that in the future. So let's see how it plays out. I think it's up to everyone in the vanadium industry to make it happen. And as I said already, vanadium redox flow battery is the second largest application for vanadium globally, and that's something no one would have thought only a year or two ago, right? So it's happening very fast. Demand is growing exponentially, and we'll do our best to support the growth of this technology.
Great. Thank you very much for joining me today, Paul. It's been really nice speaking with you.
It was a pleasure.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please tune in to our other episodes. For more news and analysis on vanadium and other metal markets, please visit argusmedia.com.